Good day. This is Evelyn Ackah from Ask Canadian Immigration Lawyer podcast. Evelyn Ackah. It's a very long name. I have the pleasure today of having joining with me is Charles Fair, who is the founder and managing lawyer of Fair Legal. Thanks for joining.
Well, thank you, Evelyn.
It's great to have you.
It's great to
I
be here.
wanted to invite you because we recently connected. We're referral partners between Ackah Law and your firm, but also we're in a business group together, and we're also both in Calgary. And I thought, well, we have to support one another, and I wanted to learn more about your practice, what you do at Fair Legal, and maybe just start off with why did you open the firm? What
Well,
was
I
the
opened a
purpose?
firm. I've got about 30 years of experience as a lawyer, and most of that experience has been dealing with lots of messy litigation kinds of things. And I just found that when I've worked with other lawyers, I just don't agree with their approach to the practice of law and their approach to clients. And one of the things sometimes it just seems to be it's all about the money. Now, obviously, money is important for a business, but that's not the only thing. The clients are really important,
Mhm.
and I really think about the ethics or the morality involved in a client's decision-making process, the psychological elements, and when it comes to immigration, for example, when a criminal case has immigration implications, what might look like a straightforward deal from a standard criminal perspective um, may have some very serious consequences, life consequences to the client that you know might not get taken into account. So I try to take into account those broader things that happen in people's lives. And that's how I got into criminal law, because anyway, so
That is so
I
great.
really like talking, don't I?
No, no, this is
That's
perfect.
why I do litigation.
No, that's why you're a litigator. I always thought I would be a litigator because I
Oh,
talk,
really?
but it's not my personality. I like happy law, and as I say, I like the happy side of it. I'm not big on the confrontation, but I also think to be a litigator, you have to be very strategic, and so there's that part of me that I don't have those skill sets that you
Yeah.
probably have at that level. Tell me about Fair Legal though, like the practice area specifically, so that people will know what you do. Yeah.
So what our magic statement, so to speak, is that we are your champions for justice in when life gets messy, whether you're facing a criminal problem, a civil problem, or a family law problem. We don't pick the when we screw up in life, we don't pick what area of law it is. And so
Exactly.
it's a very client focused practice. And yeah, I keep getting encouraged to specialize in one area or the other, and I can't. It and it's partly because the stuff is interacted.
It is.
Somebody comes in with a civil problem, say a problem with their business,
Mhm,
a business partnership is going bad. Well, that has family law implications,
mhm.
or the family law has got implications with the business stuff.
Yes.
Maybe there's some criminal behavior involved in that.
Yeah.
There's just too many cross-cutting stuff, and people aren't thinking about those other consequences when
Mhm.
when they got a narrow
So
focus.
I would say litigation specifically,
Yep.
and maybe all areas of litigation that you
Yeah.
feel confident in. So that's good to know because
I don't do any happy law.
well, I think you must do happy law when your clients get what they want and it's over and they're happy.
Well,
It's over.
it's always funny. It's like you finish off a file, and it's not like you wish to have a repeat client. It's like both sides. But I hope I never see you again.
Exactly. I know. Even when they win, right? It is a challenge. That's the real difference between what I do and what you do. But I think you're right. One of the things you mentioned, Charles, around let's say criminal law, is that I work with other criminal lawyers and like yourself around the decision on immigration, the impact, settling or pleading versus, fighting and trying to get completely exonerated and then having a criminal history. And if you're a permanent resident, that could change your life. You could be sent to another country you may never even have ever visited or know well because you never became a Canadian citizen. So those are real things where our practices intersect. It's almost like crimmigration, some lawyers call it, where there's the criminal piece and the immigration piece, and you have to work together. Otherwise, the impact is so severe, right? For families as well. They've lost the breadwinner and all of those things. So
Oh, exactly.
yeah.
So I think of a case recently, the Humboldt bus tragedy, because it's my understanding that the person who was accused was an immigrant, and
Hmm.
quite possibly may become inadmissible afterwards. And
Exactly.
I don't know a lot about the details other than his sentence was way more than he ought to have gotten, and he quite possibly had a good defense, but that he was overwrought by guilt about what had happened.
Hmm.
And that psychological component to the decision making is something that I think lawyers don't always take into account, because I think I would have. Now, I'm not saying that the lawyer who represented him didn't try. I mean, I would hope that he tried,
Yeah.
but I would think that one way of talking to your client is saying, look, this is not just about you. The criminal justice system, when I say get off a criminal who, people say that to me all the time. Well, how can you
Mhm.
represent somebody who's guilty? Well, no, part of my job is to make sure that the state, the government is not overreaching,
Yeah.
right? Part of my passion for this is to make sure that people are treated fairly.
Yeah.
And part of the role is also to make sure that the justice system as a whole is functioning properly. And
Mhm.
if somebody is setting a really bad precedent because they're feeling guilty, they need to be thinking maybe that there's some wider issues here than just their life, you
Exactly. I
know?
like that. It
So
seems like you've got this real holistic approach to the way you
yeah.
practice law. Yeah,
Well,
no,
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
just compartmentalize. I hear what you're saying.
Yep.
That's really
Yep.
true. So how did you get into law, Charles? Where are you from?
Well,
What's your background?
it's a really interesting question, because I thought I would be terrible at it. I did an undergraduate degree in social anthropology.
Yeah.
One of my courses was in legal anthropology, and I thought, well, this is really interesting. It's fascinating because the legal system is about how we regulate our relationships between people as a society, and
Yeah.
all of that. So I found that very interesting, but I never thought I could be a lawyer. Well, after I graduated, I worked in the IT business,
Wow.
and I ended up working in the computer services group for a very large national law firm.
Hmm.
And at that point, I realized, gosh, I can do what these guys do. So I was no longer intimidated. I mean, I come from a fairly blue collar
Yeah.
background. My father was in computer technology himself, so I had some skill set there.
Wow.
Um, so I don't. But I don't come from, I think I was the first one of all my cousins to go into, anything kind of post-secondary.
Yeah. Yeah. I come
So
from
it
the same
was,
background. Yeah. My dad was a
yeah.
mechanic, so
So I was intimidated. And then once I'm working with these lawyers trying to design databases for litigation support, I'm thinking, I can do this. So I
yeah.
wrote the LSAT, and I scored in the 92nd percentile. So I ended up getting into a really good law school. So it
Where did you
just,
go?
University of Toronto,
Oh, great, great. My
which was
sister
a,
went there too for law school. I was at UBC. Yeah, that's
and it was a
excellent.
great school. I had such great professors, and I still remember some of the words they used in their lectures. And it was a really good experience. And I remember thinking and reading some stuff about how law school can change people's values.
Mm,
And I recently found some articles on that issue that I had clipped at the time and stuck them in a file folder like 30 years ago. And I go, I really said to myself at the time, I'm not going to let that happen to me.
yeah,
I'm going to come into this. I've got a set of values. I'm very interested in making the world a better place. And
absolutely.
how do we make it better? Right.
Mm,
And all of the philosophy and political science, when it comes right down to it, it's in the nitty gritty of the law courts
mhm,
where all of that stuff starts to have an effect on people's lives,
absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely. I
you
think
can,
that's great. I love that because just like you, I'm from a background that's quite modest. We are immigrants, and it was like I was the first one, just like you, and
Yeah.
my sister's the lawyer too, so we had to be, like that's the
Yeah.
immigrant kind of obligation. You come and you have to take advantage of every opportunity. But
Well, for sure. Yeah.
so were you used to work in firms with other people, and then you just decided it's time to do my own thing? Is that what happened for you?
Oh yeah, there
Yeah,
was numerous
yeah, of
irritants,
course.
like just a funny little thing. Funny. It's so the firm was insisting on on an administrative fee based on a percentage of my billable rate, and
Hmm.
I just found that just so offensive, and I couldn't get the managing partner to. I said, look, why don't we raise my fees? He says, well, you can raise your fees if you want, but we're still raising our
That's
admin fee.
crazy.
And
Yeah,
I said, well, that means that, this is to pay for photocopies and whatnot. So my hourly rate, much higher than a junior associate's, my
yeah.
clients are paying a higher admin fee
Hmm.
for no extra service. It's
That was the end of
issues
it. Yeah,
like
no,
that.
there's always a
that-
reason. I think that lawyers, I was a partner at a big firm, and there's a reason we make the change. And I think sometimes we start thinking like the client. I always put myself in the client's shoes. How does this look if I'm the client? How does
Yeah.
this feel if I'm the
Yeah.
client? And if it doesn't feel right, what you did is what I did. Was like, I want to offer better, and you wanted to offer better without this bureaucracy. And there's definitely some benefits of being able to make your own decisions rather than going to partners meetings to,
Yeah.
hold what's the plan.
Yeah. And when I start hiring associates, I'm thinking, oh, how do I um, inculcate the same set of values, right?
Mhm.
We're running a business. We've got to make sure it's profitable,
Yeah,
but this is ultimately about serving our clients, serving society, and making a difference in the world. And that's
absolutely.
so,
I think that is the challenge. I mean, one thing I've noticed, I've been on my own as a small firm owner now for 10 years, just over 10 years. And the staffing or the hiring of associates, it's challenging. You may develop wonderful articling students to become great associates, and then they get poached by the bigger firms. So it becomes a real thing of how is this going to work? Because you want them to appreciate all the flexibility that they have, or all the access, different from big firms where they sit in a boardroom with paper. They don't have any client contact. They don't go to court. They don't, you
yep,
know what I mean? They have to
yep,
see, for instance, for you, the value of they get to go to litigation. They get to go to court. They're not the ones that do the grunt work and then someone else shows
right,
up, and right. So it
right.
is a challenge. It is a challenge for sure. Yeah. Can I ask you, Charles, how has COVID affected you and or your business? Have you been busier or less busy? What's been your
Well, initially it was interesting. There was a real boost right at the beginning because some clients all of a sudden were really motivated to get some cases resolved that had been kind of sitting there. We kind of had a wait and hold strategy because it made sense and it was like, nah, let's get this done. So we had some extra work on that. I
Oh,
think that it did affect some of our clients' abilities to pay,
yes.
but in other cases, I think the clients had more disposable income because instead of spending it on their vacation, they were spending it on
Writing.
solving that mess that they had created.
I've heard that. Everybody seems to have put away so much more money than small business owners. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I've heard that. I'm glad to hear that. So if I was a client looking to contact you and reach out by email or telephone, what's your process to deciding, if this is a valuable relationship that you want, or a new file that you want, so that people understand how to contact you, but also what your process is in determining if you can assist.
So one of the things that's really made a difference in my practice is that I don't handle that onboarding, that initial intake. So
Mhm.
my business manager, Melanie, is the first point of contact, or perhaps a second point of contact. So she'll actually have a consultation with the client, find out what's going on in the client's life, and find out whether they've got a legal problem that we can do,
Yeah.
and whether they can afford us. I mean, that's often an issue, and she works through all of those issues,
Mhm.
and then she'll sign the client up, and they'll pay a retainer. Then
Perfect.
I get have a strategy session with the client, and that strategy session ends up being, unless I get really long-winded, it tends to be much more efficient.
Yeah, I think
And,
that
and,
makes sense.
and
That's
then
great. Yeah.
and then I can really focus on solving the client's problem, which I would anyways. But I'm not sitting there worrying about, oh, I'm giving away my expertise
Yeah.
here and not getting paid, which is what I would generally tend to do in the
I
past. So
know.
that's been a really big thing for me.
Oh,
So
I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, I know where that came from in
yeah,
our
yeah.
I love it. I love your implementing. Do you charge for consultations or meetings with with your business manager? How do people, like every firm is different. Is it a free call or
Yeah,
is it a
that
paid?
that first consultation with her is completely free. So,
Okay.
and it's only if they're getting legal advice or
Yeah,
a strategy session. The strategy session is paid.
of course.
Sometimes if Melanie's not quite sure on whether we should be taking the case or whether it's something to solve, then the client gets a short free consultation
Of
with
course.
ways
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
figure this
That's
out.
the challenge I find for us is keeping ourselves focused on the existing client work, right? And not getting caught up in all the potential things that can come in the door that may or may not assist your client. So you want to focus on the work you have to do that's taking care of people and
Yeah.
let other people manage that. So that's exactly how we do it as well. Tell me about your Team 100. I'm really impressed that you started it. It looks great. Um,
Yeah, it's
I'm on it, so I'm honored.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. The T100 has been a fun process because I'm a member of BNI as well, a
Yep.
business networking group, and it's very similar idea, and that is that if I'm spending my time promoting other people's business,
Mhm.
it just seems way more fun than promoting my own, basically. Like I would rather say, look, it's just an easier sell to
Yeah.
some extent, right? Like um, so that's the genesis of it, and it's been really interesting. I called up somebody. I thought, well, okay, we had somebody to do a will client,
Mhm.
and sorry, they needed a will done, and I don't do any of that happy law. I don't do any solicitor's work at all. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go slightly outside my network
Yeah.
and to find another lawyer to refer to. So found one, contacted him. We referred him the work. He was very happy with the referral. Then we scheduled my staff scheduled a call with just a get to know you kind of call between
Yeah.
him and
Yeah.
I, so I could figure out whether I'd add him to my Team 100. And as it turns out, he's also a member of BNI in another chapter.
Oh, that's great.
So,
That's
so
great.
the very next day, he sent me another client. I think he sent me another couple of clients,
That's
and
perfect.
he got the last issue of the Team 100 that came out a day afterwards. He sent me a client.
That's
So,
awesome.
so I think that idea seems to be a really
Mm,
effective way of building relationships.
yeah.
So,
Especially during COVID. I mean, it's not like we're able to sit and have drinks and do the social stuff that we used to do.
yeah,
I think it's a wonderful way.
yeah.
And working on it. It's been a work in progress. And seeing your great material come out, I was like, I gotta get going on this, add this to my long list of things to do. But we already at Ackah, we have like a referral list that's quite long. So whenever somebody needs something, my team can go through and say, oh, we don't do this cross-border tax, but we have people that,
Yeah.
accounting, whatever they need. But I love the idea of turning into something more formalized and that it looks great and it gets to profile people. So you'll be on our list. You're already on our list, but we're going to work on our Team 100 so that we can also get ours circulating. I think it's a great way to
Yeah.
build profile and
Well,
develop.
and I noticed you did an interview with another solicitor
Yes.
who
Yeah.
does happy law, and I thought,
Yeah.
you know what, I just told Melanie this morning. I said I think we should reach out to her
She's
and
great. Yeah. Yeah.
develop a
I think
relationship
you
with her.
should. I mean, this is what I love is that people are finding my networks. And even just doing the podcast, I did one with Daniel Davis, who is a business immigration writer. He does the business plans. And
Uh-huh.
we just got a new client out of that. And it's like the opportunity to profile the people we work with, even because when you're a small firm, you don't have the partners upstairs or downstairs to just, run up and hand the work off. So you need to
Yeah.
create that network.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think you're doing a great job with that. So tell me, where do you think fair legal is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you want it to go? What do you want to do? How are you going to grow?
Well, we're working on it. We've got about 2,400 square feet in our office here, which meant that in COVID we were well spaced out. So,
Same
so
here.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping to fill those offices. And one of the things that I'm working on is seeing whether I can integrate other non-lawyer professionals into, particularly in the psychological counseling area, integrate that into the delivery of legal services, because typically that's an issue when somebody comes in with a legal problem.
Yeah.
They often have a bit of a psychological issue as well. I'm not saying my clients are crazy, but or the other side has got some psychological issues. I mean, and I think that if we just take a narrow view of the law as just being about solving the legal problem, we're limiting what the impact that we can have. So I think, well, if I get a client in and they're able to see the conflict that has arisen in a different light,
Yes.
and manage their own reactions to it, like anger management or substance abuse.
Yes.
You know,
I
also,
think it's a great idea.
There's
There's a family law firm in our business group, and they provide something similar. So you need to talk to them and find out. They provide like a whole other service offering that has grown their practice.
Yeah, I think
already connected.
I think one of my coaches put me in touch with one in the States.
Yep.
And one in Mexico.
Oh.
And I'm already scheduled, I think, tomorrow morning to be talking to the fellow in Mexico.
Good.
I haven't yet made contact with the one in the States.
I think the other one is criminal lawyer or family. It's kind of like the aftermath of all that emotionality.
Yeah.
So definitely make sure, and they literally offer courses and support, and it's all the psychologists, like, here's your binder. They call it, I forget the name, but it's like a blue binder project where it's about all the other things that you need to take care of so you don't find yourself in this situation again. I think it's a great model.
I think so. So what I've been reaching out to other family lawyers here in the city, some senior family lawyers, and they're interested in participating in some kind of a roundtable on this.
Good.
I've also been reaching out to psychologists who practice in the area. Some of them are do, you know, expert reports and stuff. And there's one in particular, I'm trying to get her onto my Team 100 list, because what she does is provide consulting, so basically litigation support, and will help a client, say a dad who's not really sure how to parent. He's now got a toddler, and now he's got to step up to the plate and be a parent. And so she'll work with a client like that to help them get squared away. And I think that's better than just saying, taking a kind of a cold standoff. Well, we're solving the problem as it is, and the facts are what they are. Well, no, the facts are always in constant change. We might as well have a positive influence on the facts as well as on the law. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think this is something you need to really think about developing or branding around the fact that you're focused on, Charles, making the world a better place. And it's not just, I fought this fight in court and we won. It's, how do I impact my clients' lives for the rest of their lives?
So that's
I love that.
Well, and that's where I have a problem with, how do I market it? So I'll give you an example of a criminal client. Actually, it's criminal and family. This guy is a blue collar guy. He'd go out hunting, then he'd go to the bar, he'd get drinking, then he'd get into a fight, the police would be called, the same escalation. I think he was facing 16 charges or something. I had him, I was on for him in I think 4 different courts: Red Deer, Calgary, one way up north. He had I got an agent to deal with that one. Down in Turner Valley. And a lot of this was anger management. And then you start probing into it and you realize, my God, he grew up in a family where his stepdad was very physically abusive. He had alcohol issues, and you know, by demonstrating to him that I really was on his side,
Yeah.
out of those 16 charges, the Crown ended up withdrawing almost all of them. I think he only had to do some intermittent sentence on one in Red Deer, which was a road rage incident. The assaulting the police officers and all of that stuff
That's
down in
great.
Turner Valley was all gone
That's
as a
great.
result of my work. And one day he calls me up, he says, you know, I got a problem with my ex's, you know, because he had a couple of kids, right?
Yep.
The ex has cut me off from seeing the kids, and her new boyfriend is driving me crazy. And if something doesn't change, we're gonna have another problem. And so at this point, I'm counseling him on
Yes.
how to communicate
Yeah.
with, he can't communicate with his ex because she's cut him off all communications, right? So now he's got to go through the boyfriend. So now we're looking at a very dangerous, volatile three-way situation.
Mhm.
And he was listening to me. He was listening to me because he knew because he trusted me, because
Of
I was
course.
on his side, right?
Exactly.
And I said, look, this is how you do it. This is how you stay focused. And he called me back a few days later. He said, or a few weeks later, or whatever. He said, you know, I was successful in getting through to the boyfriend. He opened up a channel of communication so that he could talk to the ex about
Great.
parenting.
Yeah.
She restored his parenting time. And she
Good.
dropped her child support application, which meant that I
Great.
lost my family law file. But you know
Yeah.
what?
But
It
that's
was an
great.
impact. And I go, you know, well, that's when you have an impact on somebody's life.
Yeah.
That's where, you know, so
That's the
anyways.
difference. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm
My
looking forward
problem
to
is how do we say to, well, come to Fair Legal if you've got anger management issues and you need somebody that you can trust. I mean, I don't know how to pitch
No,
it,
but
right?
I think I'm sure you'll come up with it. And, you know, with our business group, I think you'll be able to. For me, it's very much you take care of all aspects of people's lives,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just the litigation. But I
Well,
think
well,
it's looking
yeah.
at it in this full circle picture of
Yeah.
how can we help you leave this relationship or this engagement with us better than you started, and not just because you got off or whatever, but also how can we develop you so that you won't have to keep getting into the cycle, right? How can we break those cycles? So I think it's a great model. You
Yeah.
know, I definitely do. I think that you're onto something, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Charles, you want to share with us about you or Fair Legal before we wrap up our podcast today? And that, but let people know where to find you and how to work with you. Is there anything else you want to share? Because I think you've given us a really good sense of who you are, what you want, and your philosophy and your why you do what you do.
Yeah.
You've given us that, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, if one of your clients wants to reach out to me, that's great. They can contact your office and ask for the referral. I'm happy to do that. Right.
Or
So
they can find you online at Fair
they
Legal.
can find, yeah, fairlegal.ca. Yeah.
Great,
Yeah. So,
great.
but yeah, no, I don't think I have anything else to add. I mean, you get me talking, I'll talk for a few hours.
I'm looking forward to when we could meet in person and sit on a patio and
Yeah.
have a
Well,
glass
you
of
know, that was the funny thing is a stroke, because we have such wide spaces, you know, we have
wine. Mhm.
COVID screens and all of that and
Yeah,
masking
same.
and everything. And we would give clients an option and they'd say, oh, we can come into the office. Oh, please let me come into the office.
I think everybody's just anxious to be able to
Yeah.
engage with each other. So
Yeah.
I really look forward to meeting you in person and Melanie as well, and seeing your firm grow and develop. And I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time today, Charles. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Yeah.
being
Good.
on our podcast for Ackah Law.
It's been really fun. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.